selections of text the last couple of weeks. I know last week I was sleeping, but he had like the beheading of John the Baptist. That was a real doozy. Kristen, did you have to read that one?
No.
Oh, okay. Then this week is kind of weird too. We actually, if you look at, well, first of all, we had all the circumcision stuff in the epistle, but then the gospel, it actually, there's 2 sections there. There's 20 verses in between in the middle, and it skips over the feeding of the 5,000. Seems like an important part. I don't know. Maybe it's just the middle of the summer and the people that chose these texts got lazy. I don't know. But there's one verse I think I really want us to focus on today in today's gospel. And it's verse 34. I'll read it again for you. As he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. So I think one of so we went down to Nashville to serve people, right? To serve folks who are less fortunate in all sorts of ways, whether they be folks who are homeless or hungry people, or folks who could no longer care for themselves, or refugees, all sorts of different sorts of people. And you'll hear all about that more in a minute. But I think, one of the things that's an essential aspect of our faith is that we especially meet Jesus in the face of people who are oppressed or who are in a difficult situation in some way. That God is especially present in those lives. And not only is God especially present in those lives and walking with those people, but when we go to serve people, it's not just us serving them, that we learn something, that Jesus teaches us something from the lives of these people in return. So when we meet Jesus, we learn something in return. We go back changed. So with that said, I want to invite all our mission trip participants forward. We're all wearing our t-shirts from the trip. Most of us are. And if not, that's okay too. But come on forward, everyone, and you just want to take turns of kind of talking a little bit about what you learned on the mission trip. It's working. We can all just stand up here and be awkward together. Want to start, Cody?
Okay. I went on the mission trip. I was in Pastor's group, the biggest group out of the 3. I learned that you shouldn't take your life for granted. Because all people, a bunch of other people whose life are worse than yours and have to live through life with less food, less homes, less shelter, less people to talk to. And I saw God in most people. Like, I saw God in the kids that we worked with. Like, this one kid who, like, his name was Josiah, and he was just the nicest kid, and he was upset. He came to me crying and looking for his mother, so I carried him over to one of the teachers, and I asked her what to do, and she just told me to set him down there, and she took him. I saw faces in him and her because she took him and she just made him better, and he stopped crying. And him, because I know he had, like, they all had, like, most of them had, like, mental disorders. And that's where I saw God.
Sure. Awesome. Thanks, Cody. How about you, Thomas?
I wasn't in their group. But I learned that not everybody has it, like, amazingly good, or even good at all. So, while working in the food bank, that's like second harvest. That was like one thing that was on your mind is like, not everybody knows where their food is coming from. So, people have to sort it, and that's the reason why we were doing that. And the teachers at Grace Eaton, which was a daycare, kind of, they were really nice and they really cared for the children a lot, and it was really inspiring to see something like that.
Thomas's group working at the food bank and the Grace Eaton Daycare Center. At the food bank, we learned that many people down there had the choice between food and shelter. And it just made me realize how fortunate we really are. That we have food and we have shelter. We have clothes and we have families and people who love us. And at the Grace Eaton, I saw God and kids that were so happy that we had cleaned their playground up. And we got to play with them and they were just so happy to see us and meet us. And it just made me feel really good.
I wasn't with Hannah when I was in a separate group, but when I was at Catholic Charities helping disabled or old people clean their apartment type things, and one woman, she originated from Russia, and she was really when she was talking to us about her family, she seemed really upset. And I saw God that she kind of like straightened it up, and I saw God right there. And when I was working at St. Paul's Church, I saw how they had a lady from actually Schenectady do murals on their building walls, and I saw how those murals, I could see some of the faces with those murals, I could see God in the faces.
And Scott?
While I was in Nashville, I learned how many different areas of need there are out there and how many opportunities we have for service. And since we all were broken up in different groups, I think it was great because we were able to see all different needs, whether it was food, shelter, people learning skills to get their first jobs here in the United States, caring for children. We all got to experience different ways we could serve. And some of them may have seemed trivial to us at the moment. We were weeding literally blacktop driveways, taking weeds out of them, but in the end, we learned that the food bank came and brought a food truck in for the homeless at certain days of the week. And if we didn't clear out the space, they wouldn't have space to do it. So it just looked like a parking lot to us, but it was really important to them. So it was a great experience.
I went to the food bank, and there I learned that there's a lot of people out there who don't know where the next meal is coming from. And there's also many people who donate food and volunteer their time to sort through all this food to get food to the people out there who don't know where the next meal is coming from.
It was a real experience for me. I left here hoping to see how God was working through them, but what I really found out was how God worked through us and through our hands to help. We worked in a high-rise adult living, assisted living, and Kyle was talking about a Russian woman that we worked with. She actually lived in Russia during when it was communist country, and she told us about that. The kids actually got to hear war stories from a World War II vet during the Germany, when he was in Germany. We sat down with homeless people and had a meal with them to get some of their stories at a place called Loaves and Fishes. And some of their stories were really sad. There's a lot of veterans out there that have PTSD, and they are homeless because of that. And they told us their stories. They drink, they are on drugs, they can't find a place to live, nobody wants to help them. But Catholic Charities does a meal 3 days a week. And then there's another facility that does it 3 other days a week, that they're able to get at least one hot meal a week. We helped with Vacation Bible School a half day. And then we went to the St. Paul's. And in that facility, they feed on a Sunday morning a hot breakfast to up to 184 women, battered women and children from the shelter, a hot breakfast. And it really opened your eyes when you're out there and have your hands in it. I was a little disillusioned by St. Paul's the first day, but by the second day when I saw it all fall together, that disillusionment went away. So it was good.
Okay. I was in the same group as Kyle and Aunt Susie, and I learned that small things can turn a person's day around. Like, we went to the nursing home the first day, and we just did small things like flip mattresses for people who couldn't, and vacuum and clean windows, but they were all really appreciative of us coming in and helping them. And then the second day we went to Loaves and Fishes and just had lunch with homeless people or less fortunate people, and just having a conversation with them. Some of them were really grateful that we just sat down and took our time to talk to them and make their day better.
Awesome. So I think we learned a lot about how God works in the world and God's world through the mission trip. I'll just finish up with a brief reflection myself. It's been a crazy year in my own life personally, in my kind of first year here at church. And I went into the trip after my Holy Land trip and an incredibly busy summer, absolutely exhausted to begin with. And not that I was any less tired after I got back, in fact more so. But I think in seeing how God was at work I just learned how incredibly inspiring and invigorating God's work can be. I mean, just to see like Cody sweating it out day after day, pulling weeds and whatever in like super hot natural heat just to clean up an area, or the fact that Thomas decided to go, do a 15-hour drive literally the night before at 10 p.m. The fact to just go and serve people down in Nashville, I mean, that's incredibly inspiring. Or for Kyle and Hannah and Amanda and Rich to go and spend their family summer vacation just working hard in Nashville to serve people, or for Stacy and Amber just to share their experiences as mother and daughter, and just to go down there and like a lot of the girls, they had like their confirmation class to go with, but Amber, like, you were kind of going there as someone a couple years older, but just being willing to make friends and kind of learn from people, and it was just incredible. Or Susie keeping me on track and doing all the paperwork and dealing with me trying to do logistics, which I'm not good at. I'm not a detail oriented.
Stacy helped with the paperwork too.
And Stacy helped with the paperwork too. Thank God.
Two-person job.
Yeah.
It was a 3-person job. It was.
Yeah. And then curious to just like, especially coming back and hearing how hard she worked that first day and learning how to do all sorts of new things, and
We love you, kid.
but both her and Kendra just like liking pretending to like not love what they're doing and stuff, but then like when like you weren't watching, like just having the biggest smile on their faces while they were like working incredibly hard. And there's lots of pictures where you're smiling when you didn't know your picture was. But just, and then I know Kendra, she was in my group, and just she'd be really tired at the beginning of the day, but then halfway through the day she'd literally be making up jobs to do, serving at these different places. Just how incredibly inspiring and invigorating that was, is just see how God was at work in all your lives. And then even for our whole congregation to just be so incredibly supportive of this brand new thing, to, as a small congregation, raise over $3,000 without, too much difficulty to support this trip, and to, in fact, support our other youth ministries moving forward. I don't know, I just left the trip incredibly, physically sleepy, incredibly spiritually and emotionally reinvigorated by seeing how God was at work in the lives of all of you. So thank you so much. I think the good news today is that that God comes to us not just as a healer, as a savior, but as someone that is bringing into our lives incredible meaning and energy, and willingness to serve our neighbors. Thanks be to God. Amen.